Hello and welcome to this episode of Vagina Truth Bomb, the podcast. I am so excited to have you with me today for two reasons in particular. And the first one is because I've been on a bit of a break. I've taken my foot off the gas a bit and stopped doing podcasts amongst some other things, taken some time out. And that's been really, really beneficial for me. And I'm going to be sharing what I've been doing during that time. But it's just really exciting for me to be back and to be recording podcasts again. So, really excited to be here. And one of the things that I'm particularly excited about within that return is that I am now recording the podcast on video as well. So, I'm no longer hiding in the chat room sitting on my Udi trying to find a space in the house where there isn't any noise. I really felt it was important for me to be able to be seen by you all. I talk a lot about connection. And yeah, it just really felt good for me to bring myself, my whole self to the podcast, so to speak. So you can continue listening on the device that you're listening to. If you're listening to this on audio, absolutely fantastic. But I also will be posting the videos onto YouTube. So my YouTube channel is Vagina Truth Bomb. You can find me there. You can find all the episodes there. So really excited to be on camera and yeah, just be being ready to be seen and to share this podcast fully with you all. So that's the first reason I'm super duper excited. The second reason is because this is the first podcast in my new series, Endometriosis Edition. Really, really excited about this. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the series, explaining what it is, who it's for, why I'm doing it. But I'm just super, super excited, yeah, to dive into this new series. So, just for clarification, the podcast is going to continue as normal. All of the quote unquote original podcasts are going to be available where I'm going to be talking about everything to do with holistic health and well-being, especially for women, talking about changing the narratives to a more positive one. All of the things Amy are going to be in there as well. So really beneficial for everybody to listen to those. In these specific episodes, we're going to be focusing on endometriosis. Okay, so I'm going to start by reintroducing myself because I've realized I haven't done it already. And yeah, there might be some new people listening to this because I've put the focus on endometriosis. So allow me to introduce myself. Hello, I'm Amy Louise Connor, and I'm the founder of Vagina Truth Bomb. And with Vagina Truth Bomb, I have some intentions that I've set out to make and to meet. So the first one is with Vagina Truth Bomb, I'm encouraging others to regain agency of their body, health, and well-being by looking at their own health in a more holistic and informed way. And I do this using what I call the 5 foundations of health and well-being. And I'm going to be talking about these a lot throughout the podcast, so you'll hear a lot about them. But they are your body, your emotions, your emotions, including trauma, environment, connection, and blueprints. So those are the 5 foundations of health and well-being, according to Vagina Truth Bomb. So that's the first intention I've got. The second one is to support women who are suffering with the symptoms of endometriosis to navigate themselves away from the pain and discomfort towards a healthier and sustainable quality of life. Okay. This is really, really important to me. I'm an endometriosis mentor, and I've got a one-to-one mentoring program that I call Beyond the Womb, where I help women to thrive beyond endometriosis. Okay. And the third intention is to really start to change the negative narratives when it comes to women's health and well-being. So I want to change the narrative around women's health and well-being to a more positive and informed one. We hear so much negativity about being a woman and our life experiences and our processes that we go through as women. And there's so much negativity and weight to these things, such as periods being painful, birth being body altering, and that you're going to continually pee yourself after you've given birth, to menopause being the end of the world and everything drying up and all of your passion leaving you. All of this negativity that we have, we really want to strive to help to change the narratives around it. And the final intention that I have is to create deep and meaningful connections. Okay, so connections is one of my 5 foundations of health and well-being. And it's really important for me to provide space for these connections to take place. And I'm going to be talking about that more as I dive further into the podcast. So that's who I am. That's Vagina Truth Bomb, very much in a nutshell. And what I'm going to do now is talk to you about why I've decided to dedicate a series of this podcast to endometriosis. And it's probably really obvious to you from my introduction, but my journey that led me to create Vagina Truth Bomb came from my own experiences of endometriosis and adenomyosis. Okay, so I have an episode 2 of this podcast. I talk about my health journey and give you a little bit more information in there. But in a nutshell, I struggled for decades with my health. Like many of you that have been listening to this, didn't get the answers, was told I was incurable, just constantly up against a brick wall when it came to any treatment, any solutions, anything positive, really. And back in 2016, I was in a really, really low and desperate place. My quality of life was at rock bottom. My physical health and my mental health were at rock bottom. I had suicidal thoughts. I was in constant pain. And I made a decision to have a hysterectomy in the hope that it would improve my symptoms, improve my quality of life. And I made this decision from a really lonely and scary place. And when I look back now, when I reflect back on this time, I realize how ill-informed I was when I made that choice to have a hysterectomy. And although, yes, the surgery was successful in the sense that I no longer had the pain of menstruation and ovulation and the adenomyosis in particular, it didn't heal me. It didn't create the quality of life that I wanted. And I felt that I'd sacrificed so much. I don't have children. My husband and I don't have children. Obviously, our choice to have children naturally was removed when I made that decision. And it was a heavy weight to carry. And, I was plummeted into surgical menopause, which is a whole other episode in itself, but it was just horrendous. And through that, I set off to really look for a better way for myself. At this point, I was very much wanting answers for myself. I'm somebody who cannot, I don't believe and understand that endometriosis has no known cause and no known cure. Like, I just couldn't get my head around that. I couldn't understand why my body had this. I've got 2 sisters that didn't have it. I've got a mother that didn't have it, all of the things. And it just never left me this questioning as to why me? Why has this happened to me? What have I done? And I set off on a journey to really look for answers and to understand myself more fully. And I stepped into certifications and, did research and listened to loads and loads of podcasts and read loads of books and looked at other ways of looking at health and well-being. And I am certified as a women's health specialist. And as I stepped into that certification, I'll be honest, I was doing it from a really selfish place. I just wanted answers for myself. I wanted to understand my own body and kind of close the journey. And yes, I'd had the endometriosis, I'd had the pain. That had gone, as in, the heavy periods, the constant pain, the ovulation pain, all of that had gone. But I still wasn't well. I still was having lots and lots of symptoms that were not good. I wasn't going to the toilet properly. I had a lot of UTIs, and then all of the menopause pieces as well. So I really wanted to, I felt like I owed it to my body, to myself, to step into this journey. So I stepped in and I just learned so much, like so much opened up for me. And as I was learning, I started to talk to other people about my experience, about what I was learning, about everything that had happened to me. And I realized that talking about my experience really helped other people. I realized how much of a taboo subject a lot of women's health is. How many times, we can't have those honest and open and vulnerable conversations with other people, whether they're our friends, our mothers, our daughters, our doctors. These conversations aren't happening. We're not creating time for them. We don't have the understanding. And as I started to have these conversations, I realized that they were not only helping me, but they were helping other people. And that's really how Vagina Truth Bomb was born. I really wanted to create a platform where I could start to use my voice and my experience to change the narratives around women's health and well-being, as I've just spoken about. So really, why I've decided to do this podcast series on endometriosis is because I now support women who have endometriosis to really regain agency, control, understanding of what's happening in their body, of what the symptoms are, what they're trying to tell them, and getting them to thrive beyond endometriosis without having to make the massive sacrifice of their womb and this is a huge thing that women are doing. And really, this podcast comes from a place of me wanting to provide a service, a conversation, a connection that I needed back in 2016 when I was making that decision. I felt so alone. And I don't want any other person to feel like I felt in that space. I don't want any other woman to have to make the decisions that I was making in that space. So this podcast is really here to help others who are going through what I've gone through. And I know that there's, the figures around endometriosis are enormous. They're saying it's 1 in 10. I believe it's more than that. So my intention with this podcast is to pour as much love and dedication as I can into it to share what I know, my knowledge, my experience, to hopefully help you to make the decisions that you need to make in an informed way. Okay, so that's why I've dedicated a series of the podcast to endometriosis. Now I want to talk about who this podcast is for. So really, a lot of people would think that I would say, this podcast is for anyone who has endometriosis. And it's not, because I know that what I'm going to say in it and what I'm going to be talking about, that not everybody is ready for. This podcast is available to everybody who has endometriosis or has had endometriosis and wants answers. That's the difference. This is a podcast, and I may sound like I'm coming across a bit harsh here, but I'm going to be talking about this more as the podcast goes on. But this podcast is for anybody who has had or has symptoms of endometriosis, adenomyosis, where they want answers, where they refuse to believe that they are incurable, that just doesn't sit right with them. As I said, I was starting to believe that, hence why I had the hysterectomy, from that place of desperation. I don't think I ever bought into it because I always had these questions in my head. Why? What about this? There must be more to it. It's not as simple for me as there's just no known cure or cause. I just don't buy into that. So the podcast is really for anyone who's willing to open up to a broader perspective of the condition. If you are ready to learn more, to be open-minded, to listen to different views and approaches to the condition, then this is absolutely the right podcast for you. So regardless of where you are on your journey as well, like anybody is welcome to listen. I have clients who have had their hysterectomies and continue to have the symptoms of endometriosis, and that's why they come to work with me. I've also had clients that have had hysterectomies, their symptoms of endometriosis have severely reduced, and they come to work with me because they don't want it to come back. I also have clients that come to me before they've had a diagnosis, who come to me, in the middle of having to make the decisions as whether to have certain surgeries or not. So regardless of where you are on your journey with endometriosis, this podcast is going to be helpful for you. And it's also very much for those of you who are willing to put the work in, who really want to take action, to take back agency of yourself, of your body, and of your health and your well-being. Because I'm going to be giving you lots of advice and lots of information that is only going to be of value to you if you're going to take action on it. So absolutely, it is here for anybody who is ready to think differently about endometriosis. And I also really want to warmly welcome anybody who's listening to support someone who has endometriosis. Maybe you've got a partner, a daughter, sister, colleague, or maybe you even work in the health. You're a health worker, you work as a doctor, a nurse, health practitioner, whatever it is, and you just want to deepen your understanding by listening to my experience, by, sharing what I'm sharing and receiving it, and really looking, as I say a lot, like I use this word a lot, at a more holistic approach. Okay, so that's really who the podcast is for. So everybody is totally welcome, but I know that it's not going to be for everyone. You're going to have to be in a position where you're willing to open up your mind and your heart to really listen to what I'm sharing, because some of it may be completely new to you, some of it may not. So moving on now to what to expect from the podcast. So I'm just going to start this section by saying my business is called Vagina Truth Bomb for a reason. Okay, I'm going to be dropping my truth bombs, what I believe to be the truth for me in this moment, in this space, at this point in my journey. I'm going to be speaking out very much against or about the Western medical model approach to endometriosis. I'm going to be really challenging that. And I don't know if I mentioned this in my introduction, but I'm based in the UK. So I live in the United Kingdom, and we have our National Health Service here, which has many, many fabulous, fabulous qualities to it, but it also has its challenges and it also has its faults. And I'm going to be talking about them so you can explore your experience of endometriosis through the medical model as I reflect back on my experiences. And really, with this podcast, as I've said, I want you to become informed. I'm going to be making some potentially what you potentially feel to be bold claims. But what I'm also going to be saying is that I know that I don't know everything. Okay, so I'm not going to be sat here on this podcast saying to you, I am the only person that you need to listen to about endometriosis. This is the only podcast that you need. No, no one should be telling you that. This is an option for you to become informed about what I know and what I believe and trust in. You have to be curious. You have to, I really encourage you to go out there and shop around, so to speak. Look around, get curious, see what other people are saying about endometriosis. I'll say this throughout the podcast. Speak to your doctor. If you're not getting the answers that you need from your doctor, speak to another doctor. If you're not getting the answers you need from a doctor, look beyond your doctor. Speak to other health professionals. Seek out a mentor or a coach. Look at everybody. Search around on YouTube. Get on Instagram if that's your vibe, or Facebook, wherever it is, and listen to what other people are saying, what their experiences are, what they're bringing to the table for you. Okay? I am not like, I'm all about being my complete, full, authentic self. I know it's a big cliche, but I am not going to say to you that I am the only person you need to help you with endometriosis, because you've got to make that decision. That comes from you, and you need to do the work, look around, and see who you gel with, see who you vibe with, and be curious. So that's definitely, with this podcast, you can expect your curiosity to be stretched. Okay. But what I will say is that one of my magical powers as an endometriosis mentor is knowing and appreciating how to sequence healing. I'm going to be talking a lot about this in the podcast as well. So that's something that you can expect to hear more about, is, as I call them, my magical powers, because it's your body that's magic. And I'm going to be talking more about this in other episodes. But yeah, your body is amazing. Okay. So I'm also going to be challenging the status quo when it comes to endometriosis, as I've just said. And I'm also going to be asking you to think holistically and really just challenge everything that we are told about women's health and well-being in general. And I'm also going to be doing that in the regular podcast episodes as well. I'm going to be sharing my knowledge on, including, as I've talked about, the 5 foundations of health and well-being. So I'll just go over them again. So your body, your emotions, including trauma, your environment, connections, and blueprints. And you're going to get a better idea as to how these all are specifically applicable to endometriosis. I'm going to share with you my advice and my reflection of my experiences with the medical approach to my endometriosis and my healing. And I'm going to do that in a way so that you can be more reflectful of your experience and what's happening for you, and really to provide you with a tool to be more curious. As I've said before, I want you to really start to take ownership of your health, take back your agency, and start to ask those questions and challenge and be curious. And finally, what you can expect from this podcast, if you wish to receive it, is connection. Okay, so I really, really wish and hope that this podcast allows you to feel that you can connect with me. This is one of the reasons I'm here on camera, showing my face. I want you to feel that you can reach out to me, that you can ask me questions, you can get curious with me. You can, I want this to be a vehicle for you to start to explore Vagina Truth Bombs, to start to get to know me and really feel supported. Because I know it's okay for me to create these podcasts and share all this amazing information and share all these new ideas and drop them on you, but I don't want to just leave you with them. I want to invite you to come into connection and into community with me. So I am going to be creating a community specifically for women with endometriosis who are ready to take action, who are ready to ask the questions, make the changes, and do what they need to do to support themselves. So I'm going to be opening a community. It's going to be called Beyond the Womb. And what we're going to be doing in there is you're going to have opportunity to connect with me and the other community members and go into more in-depth discussion about the topics on the podcast and be more supported through what I'm sharing with you. So I'm really excited to be launching that as well. And if you would like to know more, please reach out to me and I will make sure that you are the first to know. So yeah, really hoping for connection as well. So I will just say here as well that the ways that you can connect with me are through my website and my email, which is amy@vaginatruthbomb.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as Vagina Truth Bomb. And you can message me on there. All of the links will be in the show notes. So please feel free to reach out and connect. But my preferred communication is email because I do get a bit flippant with social media notifications because it can just all be too much. So definitely email amy@vaginatruthbomb.com if you really want to reach out and connect with me. Okay, so that's it. This is all I'm going to cover in this episode because I just wanted you to get as grounded into the series so you can really know what to expect. And yeah, so excited to start this journey. So if you would like to be on my email list, you can email me, amy@vaginatruthbomb.com, and ask to be put on my email. Absolutely. And we can start some communication up. And yeah, really want your input about the podcast as well. If there's something you would like me to do an episode on, please reach out. Oh, I'm so excited for this journey. So thank you so much for listening to this first episode. I hope you're as excited as I am. And yeah, just super duper excited to dive into recording more content for you and sharing it with you all. So I want to wish you all a beautiful day and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this. Sending you lots of love. Bye.